everybody. Today for our Insight Change conversation, we're going to travel to Kansas and talk to a really remarkable candidate who is running for U.S. House in Kansas's 2nd Congressional District. She is a career public servant with an incredible commitment to serving others. In fact, she is currently serving as mayor of Topeka, Kansas. Her name is Michelle De La Isla, and some of you might be wondering, why are we talking about a seat that Cook Political Report maybe deems as likely Republican? Well, there are two factors that I think are putting this race majorly in play. First are the broader dynamics. The seat is actually held by a somewhat vulnerable freshman Republican who won only 24 months ago in a race that was extremely close, just by a margin of 2,500 votes. The second factor, though, not to be underestimated, is Michelle herself. She is a remarkable candidate with a tremendous record with voters in this district. She served in city council. She has won election as mayor. She understands how to talk to voters in this district, has a history of working for them, and knows the tactics that it's going to take between now and November to make sure that she is talking to, motivating, and turning out voters everywhere to ensure victory. I want to tell you a little bit more about Michelle too, because I think her life experience is part of what makes her such a remarkable public servant. Something that I learned in my work with Pete is that mayors themselves have a tremendous commitment to getting work done and making sure that the cities that they are leading work for those around them. And that's really true of Michelle. She has incredible grit and a deep commitment to public service and doing work to help others have opportunity. It's part of what she's arrived at as core values from her own personal experiences surviving homelessness, domestic abuse, cancer, and as being an amazing mother to 3 children. From it all, she has been deeply motivated and very much values working in service to others. As she says in her own words, to talk about me, I must talk about us. To talk about me is to understand that I am here to serve you. So with that in mind, let's have this conversation with Michelle. I think the more you learn about her and this remarkable race that she's running in Kansas, the more you're going to be convinced that this is a candidate in a race that you want to turn out and support as you can, with your dollars, with your time, and even just by emailing or tweeting or sharing on Facebook so that more of your friends know about Michelle and she's on their radar. Thanks for joining us.
I think that it all started in Upward Bound. I've had a pretty interesting life, and it wasn't until I joined Upward Bound and started teaching students there that I started understanding that my life and my story, albeit challenging, was not unique. And I started understanding that there was power in that story and helping these students own their story as well. Later on, I ended up moving to Topeka and immediately got involved with the organization called MANA. It's a national organization for women, and I started doing their financial literacy nationwide. And in addition to that, helped start the local Hermanitas chapter, which means that for now 11 years, we've had a conference that is impacting the lives of over 200 girls every single year. And that, again, was pretty impactful. The YWCA was instrumental in helping me find that leadership story in my voice, because as a survivor of domestic violence, it wasn't until I went to the YWCA that I was able to get the support that I needed to find my voice and understand where I was able to impact others. And those journeys led me to the council and now to be mayor. So now I'm running for Congress. It's interesting to see how little by little all these challenges have all come together so that I'm able to just help others find their voice.
You know, something that's incredible in what you just shared, Michelle, that really strikes me is you've had this incredibly nuanced and rich life and overcome so many challenges, but in so many of these instances, you face challenge and come back with a commitment to making the system or making something work better for other people that might find themselves in similar situations. Of all of these amazing things that you've accomplished in your career in public service to date, what are you most proud of and why?
So I always say this, that the thing that I am proudest of in the background and my heart and my soul is my kids. And I know it's got nothing to do with my career, but it has everything to do with my career. I have 3 children that are watching everything that this minority underdog mom is trying to do for them. And if I am able to achieve those things, then obviously they should be able to as well. But I think that, just to summarize some of those things that really stick in my heart, finding that in one of the conferences in Mana, they started showing a slide, and I didn't understand how many people had been impacted by the financial literacy education.
Yeah.
But I taught over 1,000 women that then we're going to go back into their communities and teach other women about financial literacy.
Mm.
So that in itself was just like one of those moments that you never understand your impact until the numbers are presented to you. Then knowing that we have this awesome mentorship program for girls, Habitat for Humanity, when I took over the organization, we were only a volunteer organization, and under my leadership and the board and the team that we had, we were able to go from building one house every other year to maybe impacting 14 families, starting a restore, and growing an organization that is currently very sustainable. As mayor, the things that I'm really excited is that we've changed the way that we talk about economic development. It's now a holistic program that talks about everybody in our economy. Examples are, we put a technical school in the middle of one of the most underserved neighborhoods in our city.
Wow.
We have found out programs. We use EcoDevo dollars to help people bridge the transportation gap. And I mean, it's just, these are the things that I'm proud of. And we've been able to do that without looking at party lines, without looking at our differences. We're looking at what our assets are. We're looking at what everybody can bring to the table, and our community rallies together. And there's a lot of pride in that unity that we have in our community.
Well, the important work that mayors do on the front lines and that impact the day-to-day lives of people is something that I've got a particular appreciation for. It was so much a part of the story for Pete, for example, in the presidential campaign that we worked on. But you're mayor of Topeka, Kansas, at a time where that city, like so many cities and towns and communities across the country, is facing this tremendous, unprecedented global health challenge with the coronavirus pandemic that we're all grappling with. And I was wondering, you've got a really unique perspective here, Mayor. Could you share with us your take on what's required from elected leadership at this particular moment to keep Americans or folks in Topeka, Kansas safe and healthy?
Thank you for that question. You mentioned one of my favorite mayors in the nation, and somebody that I really respect, Mayor Pete. And I think that one of the qualities that he embodies and that I agree with is that we are mission-focused people. When you're a leader, you focus on the mission. Our number one mission is preservation of life. It may not be popular. It may not be, the decisions that you have to make are not popular when you're doing that. But I think that when you have your mind on the mission, the differences that you have with individuals start melting away. And then you all carry forward on what do we have to do today to save lives. And you look at everything from the lens of, is this decision that I'm making conducive to saving lives? And then if it is, then let's go for it. And saving lives takes very different approaches. For example, saving lives is not only ensuring that people are able to be healthy and social distancing, but also what are we doing to make sure that those needs, those basic needs of individuals are being met? What are we doing to ensure that after those needs are being met, we're able to just come together with all of the stakeholders and then start working on a plan so that then when most lives are saved, we can then start talking about how do we bring our economy and our communities back. And right now, I can tell you that our community is pretty unique in the way that we're managing that. We have groups of churches, of educators, of business leaders, all working on our recovery with our public health officials. So that again, as we are number one, first and foremost, preserving life, then we start working with that mindset to start bringing back everything else in our community.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that inside perspective. And I also just have to say, so you're a mom to 3 kids during shelter in place. You are serving as a mayor to a pretty major city, and you're running a congressional campaign all at the same time. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing, Mayor, these days as a stress reliever.
The bike and my Sundays. I'm a triathlete. I'm waiting for the pools to open up so I can start swimming. I recently had meniscus surgery, so I want to start running again badly.
Well,
but right now my bike is my relief. And then Sundays, ever since I decided to run for council, the girls and I made an agreement that Sunday was going to be our day. So Sunday is a day that we all sleep in. And then around 10 o'clock or something, I start making whatever brunch they want. And we hang out together and I snuggle on my kids. And we then sit together in a coma and just enjoy each other's company. And that is absolutely crucial in order for me to keep giving. I have to refill my cup.
It helps you stay grounded. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about this latest campaign that you're running, because you are a candidate for U.S. House in Kansas's 2nd Congressional District. This is a district that Cook Political Report tells us tends to lean Republican, but it's a district that you know really, really well from your time in City Council and at the helm as mayor. So give us an overview of this race and why is this seat in Kansas in play?
The seat in Kansas is in play because we currently have a freshman congressman that only won by 2,239 votes.
Whoa.
2,000.
Sounds like a small number.
39 votes, extremely small number. And when we were doing, I'm a huge data nerd, and when we were doing analysis, we know that Douglas County, which is the most liberal county in the state, left 4,000 votes on the table. In addition to that, we have not had the minority community come out and vote ever since President Obama had been in office at high numbers. And we are seeing a youth engagement level that we have not seen before. In addition to that, there was a recent analysis that came out that shared that in the primary, because we went through mail-in ballots, the state of Kansas has seen a 300% increase in voter turnout for the primary because for the presidential. And we're excited about that because it shows that the numbers are there, people are excited. And when you look at the results of my fundraising in Q1, it shows you that Kansas said, I want change and you're it. We out fundraise.
Tell us about those numbers because they were
we out fundraise our incumbent opponent 3-1, even in the middle of the pandemic. And we're excited about our strategy. We have a 25 county strategy and we're going to execute it and we're going to engage people at every possible level that we can. And we're going to bring this seat home.
So your campaign strategy, it sounds like, is very much about meeting every potential voter where they are and motivating them to come out and vote. What does that mean amidst the pandemic? I mean, in some ways, I think your team has had a real advantage because you've built your campaign team while this pandemic is playing out. So you've had the ability to adapt to this new reality, but at the same time, it's an unprecedented time and we're talking about campaigning in a fundamentally different way. So share with us a little bit about how you and your team are thinking about that.
So we are really going to maximize on a lot of technology. There's going to be a lot of things that we're going to learn. One of the things that we have seen that are very successful is this medium itself. Zoom meetings have been phenomenal to just engage people. And even though we're not face to face, and I'm a very a hugging person and just like shake your hand, and I consider myself pretty warm, people are able to feel those things through this medium because, as you can tell, I am not a polished one answer person. So whenever we get a chance to use this medium, people really engage very well. However, we are also looking into every single option on how we are going to partner with individuals at each county. We already have, before this campaign actually took complete flight, we had hit 12 of the 25 counties. We were pretty aggressive in making sure that we were building relationships, and we're going to continue capitalizing on that as we go, as well as with technology.
Okay, so meet voters everywhere, get them to turn out in record numbers, use technology-enabled tactics amidst the pandemic to do what it takes to meet these folks where they are. That's a pretty good overview of the amazing and innovative tactics that your team is planning on using. I'd love to talk to you a little bit about the substance of the campaign and your message and what you think the top issues are going to be for folks in this district.
You know, that's a great question. Before I decided to run, one of the things that we did was that we sent out over 400, almost 400 letters. And then I reached out by phone and just started asking people, what are the issues that matter to you? And what I will start by saying is that it's been very interesting that the issues that matter to Kansans most are being exacerbated right now with this COVID-19 pandemic. For example, number one issue that matters in Kansas is healthcare. Families in Kansas, we have 150,000 Kansans that either have limited or no health insurance. Our state has the option of extending Medicaid And we're not doing it. We don't have Medicaid expansion here in Kansas. So for our Kansans, especially in our rural communities, access to healthcare and preventative care is critical. And if we don't think that's important, I would invite anybody to take a look at what's happening nationwide with these communities that don't have access to healthcare, that are dying at higher numbers because of their pre-existing conditions. So healthcare has come to the forefront. The second thing that has been highlighted that our Kansans are saying that's important to them is access to infrastructure, not just the roads, but people forget that broadband is a critical part of our infrastructure. And you're seeing it now as our children are dealing with education, that they don't have access not only to the education, but telemedicine and a lot of resources that could be provided, not only for our children, but for the families that may need these supports. Mental health is a crisis right now that we are not addressing, that could very easily be addressed in these communities that are seeing disproportionate numbers of cases and that don't have access to these mediums. And our Kansans, even before this virus was an issue in our communities, were saying that these were the issues that matter most to them. Education is extremely important to me. I believe that if you have a great education and great health, you can be the master of your future. And I think that we have to provide equity in those areas. And of course, jobs are extremely important. Southeast Kansas is one of the most impoverished areas in the state of Kansas, and we need to change that. It all goes back to every single factor that we've talked about. We need to ensure that we have the proper education, that we have the proper infrastructure to attract the proper businesses to come into our communities to change the situation that they're in right now.
Fascinating. I love that you started your process of deciding whether or not you were going to run by calling and listening to potential constituents and voters. That's amazing. Sounds like something a mayor would do.
Maybe.
Mayor, you know, I was noticing when we were learning a lot more about your race and sort of considering you as an insight change candidate, that this is actually a kind of interesting time in the political landscape in Kansas, which I'm going to admit to you was not a state that I was paying a lot of attention to. But, you know, we had Sharice Davids elected in 2018. We have Barbara Bollier on the ballot for Senate. I mean, we're talking about a pretty historic slate of amazing women getting elected, running and possibly getting elected to office across Kansas. And it is not lost on me that when you win in November, you are actually poised to become the first Latina to be elected to Congress from the state of Kansas, which is pretty remarkable. Could you share with us a little bit about the amazing folks that are getting on board with your campaign and endorsing you? Because it's a pretty remarkable slate.
Well, absolutely. I have to pay respects to Governor Kelly, to the women that have come before us. And I think that what we're seeing is a little bit of who Kansas really is. And I love the fact that you said when you started this question that Kansas is not a state that you were going to be looking at. Because, you know, people really don't think about Kansas as being progressive. And I just want to remind the people that are watching this that Kansas had the first woman mayor in the nation. And in addition to that, Kansas was the home of Brown v. Board. So we have always been progressive. And this year's slate has the potential to have women all over. We have women running in every single congressional seat. We have women running for Senate, plus we have our governor. It's amazing. And apparently the nation is noticing. We just got endorsed yesterday by Emily's List.
Congratulations.
So we are thrilled about that. It was a lot of work, but it was worth it. And we also were endorsed by the League of Conservation Voters, which is something that's very near and dear to my heart. Preserving our planet is one of our priorities. We have to make sure that not only do we leave a economically feasible planet for our kids, but most importantly, that there's a planet for them to live in. So we have other endorsements, but those are two that are very noteworthy that we are extremely proud of.
Well, you're on a roll here, and I'm really hopeful that those endorsements lead to more folks paying attention to this remarkable race that you're running and this important conversation that you're having with Kansans. I'm wondering if you could maybe answer the question that a lot of our viewers are probably wondering now. What, Mayor, can the folks that are listening do to be helpful to you and your team in this race? How can they get involved and be supportive?
You know, first of all, spread the word. We need to have our name out there become a name in a race that everybody is paying attention to. I don't like the way that finance is currently in campaigns, in the sense that we have to raise a lot of funds, and it's extremely challenging for us to be able to get our message out there. So sometimes it seems like it becomes an issue of who can raise the most funds, but we really need some support in order for us to get the message out to these 25 counties, especially now. This is going to be a very interesting race that we have in our hands, and it's a race that we can take, but everybody has to come in and contribute to their ability in order for us to make that happen. I think that the other thing that you all can do is just make sure that if you can volunteer, that if you can be a social media advocate, do that. Absolutely do that, because it's imperative that we all get involved, not just in my race, but I want to encourage everybody that's listening that you need to understand this is a critical time in our nation, and you can become engaged not only to change and support my race, but to ensure that whoever becomes the president, that we hope that we have a new president, has the support that they need both in the Senate and in Congress.
That's
in
right.
order for them to do what they need to do. So follow me on Michelle for Kansas on Twitter, follow me on Michelle for Kansas on Facebook, and check my website out at Michelle for Kansas as well. And please give as well.
That's awesome. And I'm so glad that you made the point that there are a range of things that people can do to
Absolutely.
be supportive of. Obviously, giving dollars as much as folks are able to at this particular moment goes a long way. But the fact that you're asking folks to get out there and share the fact that Michelle De La Isla is running in this amazing race that people have to pay attention to, if they can share that with their friends, if they can put it out on their social media accounts, that helps that goes a long way at this particular moment too. So thanks for emphasizing that.
Absolutely.
Great. Michelle, is there anything else that you want to cover in our conversation today that we haven't talked about?
No, I think that, this is a crucial time in our nation. I want to encourage every single person that is watching this. Maybe you agree or don't agree with some of the things that I have shared. But what I want to tell everybody that's looking at this video is this is a time for us to really make an impact in our democracy. I think that we have seen in the last 4 years how we have been struggling as a nation, how things that we thought that were sacred and secure are no longer that. And it's a time for us to become engaged and really safeguard our democracy and restore a sense of honor and pride in who we are as Americans. These are challenging times, and it's time for all of us to get involved. And the most important thing that you could do is your civic duty of voting. Don't just vote. Help others become registered to vote. Take people to the polls. Do whatever you need to do, because this race is extremely important. All the other races say they are, but look at the current circumstances. We haven't been in this position since 1918. We need solid leadership to help our country come back from all of the challenges that we're having, and to make sure that we ensure that more people are safe and that we can all celebrate this beautiful country that we're a part of.
There we go. Thank you, Mayor, for reminding us about what's at stake. And thank you for so bravely, again, throwing your hat into yet another civic arena and working so hard to serve others. Grateful to you. And thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for